This town is built on coal. Coal is its lifeblood and the source of its hard-won prosperity. The scars of battle are engraved on the faces of old men as they remember the struggle to make a better world for their children and their children's children. Now the battle has been won, and the children of today are the heirs to a proud heritage. They look to the future with inborn confidence. The very spirit of Colville is confidence. The teenagers of today are the technologists of tomorrow. Here, they are fitted to play their part in the realms of science, learning, and leadership in the art of living. Youth that is healthy, industrious, eager, and vital at work and at play. The miner rightly has pride of place in this prosperous community, which draws £50 million annually in mining wages alone. His family have the same proud independence. Mining is no longer the only career for young people in a town rich in a variety of industries. Unemployment, once the constant threat, is now virtually unknown. Prosperity brings larger numbers of shoppers to the high street. They come by car and by bus. Huge volumes of long-distance traffic also use the high street. Service vehicles and shoppers' cars all park there. A trip to the shops, which should be a pleasure, becomes unpleasant and dangerous. The shops at Colville attract the housewives from the surrounding country. So does the old marketplace. But the fact is that the shops themselves, like the market area, are no longer adequate for the shopping and business life that must go on there. Towns built for the age of iron and steel must change and adapt to reconcile the demands of the motor age to the necessity for a safe and efficient central shopping area. Yet, in the heart of this town lay the answer. A town with a hole in its heart. Seven empty acres. Far-sighted councillors and officials visualized a new central area in which shoppers and their children could move in a pleasant, traffic-free environment where adequate parking would be provided and where servicing facilities would be available for all shops. The key to speedy realization of this vision was found by Costain Property Investments Limited and their associates. Their idea for the realization of the project produced an enthusiastic response from the council. The development company carried out intensive survey work in close cooperation with the planning authority and the council. The precinct had to conform to the principle of complete separation of pedestrians and vehicles, had to make a positive contribution to improving the physical design of the town, and be economically viable. At last, the plans were finalized, presented to the council, and passed. Immediately, the press went to work on the release of the long-awaited story. The company acquired the necessary land and properties by negotiation with the owners. As a result, the council never needed to exercise a compulsory purchase order. As soon as the old buildings were vacated, the demolition squad moved in. The people of the town were encouraged to take an interest in the project. The contractors erected observation platforms around the borders of the site. The developers organized a public exhibition and held meetings at which questions and suggestions were invited. The job carried a peak labor force of 200 men, over a third of whom were found locally. Many parties from home and overseas visited the site. Amongst these was a party from Colville's twin town, Romans-sur-Isère, in the foothills of the French Alps. The development company commemorated this event by providing a plaque formed of two interlocking stones, one quarried locally and the other in Romans, a seal on the bond of friendship between the two towns. A severe winter at times brought work to a standstill, but with the advent of spring and renewed effort, the job was got back on schedule. There was an average weekly pour of 250 cubic yards of concrete, all obtained from local suppliers. At peak, over 20,000 bricks were laid daily, and the total requirement was in the region of 1.5 million. The soft-hued facing bricks were largely supplied by the local Whittick brickworks. Living trees, liquid amber, birch, rowan, and the graceful tulip tree were skillfully transplanted and will, in the years to come, not only provide color, light, and shade, but will be a constant link with the historic beauty of the surrounding countryside. With the dust of buildings still heavy in the air, the new Midland Bank was opened, as it had to be rendered operative before the old bank house could be demolished. Premises are eagerly acquired, not only by local shopkeepers, but by stores whose names are household words throughout the land. Now the shopping centre begins to take tangible shape as the shop fitters take over from the builders. Two more famous names have left the old for the new. What not so long ago seemed but a dreamer's dream is about to become a very real and living fact. This is Colville Broadway, 1963. This is shopping in the 20th century. The traffic-free pedestrian precinct. Here there is freedom from strain. Here there is comfort and safety. All the shops have rear access to the service roads, where speedy unloading can be effected without causing traffic congestion or pedestrian inconvenience. Integrated in the scheme is a free car park, accommodating some 400 vehicles. This is connected to the centre by a covered way. The developing company held a nationwide contest to find the ideal sculptural design to serve as a focal point in the precinct. The commission was awarded to the Welsh sculptor Robert Thomas. His mother and child group has since won international acclaim. This simple yet heroic design embodies the warm, strong heart of Colville.
At Colville's Witwick Colliery, large-scale reorganization has been changing the shape of the pithead, increasing output and putting manpower to more productive use. Among novel installations at the surface are an automatic weighbridge, which gives a continuous total of the coal being wound, and an automatic tippler, which needs no operator. Among improvements underground is a butterly vibrating platform installed at a loading point. In the factory, the mechanism of the vibrator is made accessible. The idea is to increase the carrying capacity of the tubs and mine cars by shaking them as they're loaded, causing the coal to settle down while filling takes place. Underground at the loading point, here's the platform in action. Before the vibrator was installed, tubs were piled high with coal, of which a lot could be spilt before it reached pit bottom. Today, even filling of the tubs means that they can be used to full capacity with no risk of spillage. With the vibrator temporarily stopped and started, see how the heaped up coal shakes down into the tub instead of off onto the road. An extra 7.5% of coal is being cleared from this loading point since the vibrating platforms were installed. Improvements like this at Whittick have raised the colliery output into the 50 hundredweight per man shift class. Whittick, on the edge of the Leicestershire coalfield, is a small town with big traditions. Every summer, the colliers' wives of Whittick get together in their kitchens for a big baking session. Mrs. Gaydon and Mrs. Horton turn out scores of jam tarts. Mrs. Hall and Mrs. Perry are in charge of the sandwich department, sandwiches by the mountain. Mrs. Pickering and Mrs. Ward are in the transport department, taking the contributions from the women folk of Whittick in the general direction of the colliery. The pit holds the key to all this kitchen activity. For many, many years now, Whittick has been a colliery which has produced teams preeminent in ambulance competition work. In 1958, Whittick holds the coveted Grand Prior's Trophy of the St. John's Ambulance Brigade. Competition rehearsals are a common sight in the pit yard. The story goes back to 1910. In that year, Whittick first won the Leicestershire and Derbyshire Ambulance Challenge Cup. The only surviving member of that team is Deputy James Hunt, now 77, retired after 57 years at the pit. Mrs. Hunt well remembers his enthusiasm in the old days. She remembers too how she was often bandaged up as a dummy for some event or other. For years, the men of Whittick won trophies. They began to get a bit tired of winning. At a competition in Derby, Albert Bars, the team captain, said to Bill Horton, "Well, why shouldn't we run our own contest at Whittick, cup and all?" Before he knew where he was, Chris Booth, the treasurer, was collecting promises of £1 apiece to start the fund to buy the cup. The whole team fell in with the proposal. But of course, pit manager William Hall had to be consulted first of all. Bill Horton and Albert Bars went to see him. Manager Hall pointed out some of the snags. It would mean a lot of work, and would enough other teams want to come to Whittick to compete? Bill and Albert said yes, they had enough support. Fair enough, said Mr. Hall. And another thing, the men of the colliery wanted to name the trophy after Mr. Hall. "No, no," said Bill Hall, "that's not for me." But on probably the only occasion ever, the men overruled their manager and the trophy was made the William Hall Cup. And so today, at competition time, the Whittick canteen is crowded, while in the hall the contest is carried out. Dr. Hamilton on the left, who set the first contest, has set everyone since. Teams from all over the country pit their skill against each other and against the know-how of Dr. Hamilton and the Whittick team. This year, beside manager Hall, was J.J. Torrance, now retired, who used to manage Whittick before he became AGM. And this year's winners, who received the trophy from manager Hall, as usual, the Birmingham City Police A-Team. Today, the date of the ambulance contest has become the biggest red-letter day at Whittick for the community and for the pit.
I am Marilyn Smith, 21 years old. My father is a miner, so was my grandfather. I'm working in a toy factory. But I'm really a model. My picture has been in lots of magazines: Tatler, She, Woman's Own, and Coal News. I've also been in films, and I'd just love to marry a millionaire.
We can all dream, can't we? When it comes to talent, you can never tell what you'll unearth in the lively community of Cove. "20 years as a face worker at Donisthorpe Colliery has not dimmed Harry Haynes' delight in making poetry.
We come blinking out of the dark, shy as children, lifting their eyes in the great ceremony of the sun.